The transport ship dropped out of hyperspace with a soft hum. Captain Jake Morrison pressed his face against the small window and watched Sanctuary Prime grow larger on the screen. The planet looked peaceful from space. Green and blue swirled, together like a marble. He had seen many worlds during his 5 years with the diplomatic corps, but this one felt different. "First time seeing a Zilani world?" asked Lieutenant Amy Carter from the seat next to him. She was young, maybe 25, with bright eyes that seemed to take in everything around her. "Yeah," Jake said. "I've read about them, but seeing it is something else." The ship began its descent toward Kepler Station. Jake could see the settlement now. It was not like human cities with tall buildings and busy roads. The Zilani had built their homes into the hills themselves. Gardens flowed between the buildings like green rivers. Everything seemed to grow together naturally. "Look at those fields," Amy whispered. Even from the air they could see vast areas of crops that seemed to glow with a soft light. The reports said they could grow food on any kind of soil, but I never imagined it would look like this. The ship landed on a platform that looked like it was carved from a single piece of stone. As they stepped outside, Jake felt the warm air touch his skin. It smelled like flowers and fresh rain. A group of Zilani waited for them at the edge of the landing pad. The Zilani were tall and thin with skin that had a slight green tint. Their eyes were large and seemed to see everything at once. The one in front wore simple robes that moved like water in the breeze. "Welcome, friends from Earth," the Zilani said. His voice was soft but clear. "I am Elder Vex-High. We are honored by your visit." Jake stepped forward and offered his hand in the human way. Elder Vex-High looked at it for a moment, then took it gently. His skin felt warm and slightly rough like tree bark. "Thank you for having us," Jake said. "I'm Captain Morrison and this is Lieutenant Carter. We're here to talk about the trade agreement between our worlds." Elder Vex-High smiled. "Yes, we have much to discuss. But first you must see what we do here. You cannot understand our people without seeing our work." They walked through the settlement together. Amy pulled out a small device to record everything, but she kept getting distracted by what she saw. Children played in gardens that seemed to respond to their touch. Flowers opened as they ran past. Adults worked in fields where plants grew, faster than should be possible. "How do you do it?" Amy asked, stopping next to a tree that was covered in fruit of different colors. "Our scientists have studied your reports, but they can't figure out how you make things grow so well." "Elder," Vex-High picked one of the fruits and handed it to her. "We do not make them grow. We listen to what they need and help them find it. Every plant has a voice if you know how to hear it." Jake took a bite of the fruit Amy handed him. It tasted like sunshine and summer rain. "This is incredible. No wonder every world in the galaxy wants to trade with you." They continued walking until they reached a large building at the center of the settlement. Inside, the walls were covered with screens showing different parts of their world. Jake could see other settlements, all built the same way, all surrounded by those glowing fields. "We are a simple people," Elder Vex-High explained as they sat around a table made from what looked like living wood. "We have no weapons, no armies. We have never needed them. For 300 years we have lived in peace with all our neighbors." "That's rare in this part of the galaxy," Jake said. He had seen too many worlds torn apart by war. "How do you manage it?" "We give freely of what we have," the elder replied. "Food, knowledge, friendship. When you help others grow, they have no reason to fight you." Amy was about to ask another question when alarms began to sound throughout the building. The screens on the walls changed from showing peaceful farms to displaying space around their planet. Jake's blood went cold as he saw what was on the screen. Dozens of dark ships hung in space above Sanctuary Prime. They were not like the gentle curves of the Zilani buildings or even the practical lines of human ships. These vessels looked like they were built for one purpose only: to destroy. Elder Vex-High's face went pale. "Korthak Empire," he whispered. Jake had heard of them. Everyone in the diplomatic corps knew about the Korthak. They had been expanding across this part of the galaxy for 20 years, taking world after world. They never asked. They just took. A voice filled the room, cold and harsh. People of Sanctuary Prime, I am Commander Zekthul of the Korthak Empire. You have 72 hours to evacuate this world. Take nothing but what you can carry. This planet now belongs to the Empire. The transmission cut off, leaving them in terrible silence. Elder Vexhai stood slowly and walked to the largest screen. We have no ships that can carry our entire population. Even if we did, where would we go? This is our home. Our ancestors built these gardens over generations. Have you contacted the Galactic Council? Jake asked, though he already knew what the answer would be. We sent messages to everyone, the Elder replied. The Council, the Andromedan Federation, the Centauri Alliance, they all say the same thing. They cannot risk war with the Korthak Empire over one small colony. Amy looked sick. They're just going to let this happen? Elder Vexhai nodded sadly. The galaxy has grown tired of fighting. Everyone is afraid of the Korthak. We understand. We are just one world. Why should others die for us? Jake felt anger building in his chest. He looked around the room at the Zalani who had gathered. They were not crying or screaming. They just looked lost, like children who had been told their home was about to disappear. What will you do? Jake asked quietly. We will save who we can, Elder Vexhai said. The children first, then the elders who carry our knowledge. Some of us will stay to the end. Someone must tend the gardens until the last moment. Outside, Jake could see families beginning to pack. Children held small plants in their hands, the last seeds of their world. Old Zalani touched the walls of their homes one final time. It was like watching the end of something beautiful and peaceful. Amy was crying now. This isn't right. There has to be something we can do. Jake looked at her, then at Elder Vexhai, then at the screens showing the Korthak ships waiting in space like vultures. He made a decision that would change everything. Elder, he said, we need to get back to our ship, but I want you to know something. This isn't over. Elder Vexhai looked at him with those large, sad eyes. What can you do? Your people are good, but you are few, and far away. Jake stood and put his hand on the Elder's shoulder. Maybe. But humans don't abandon their friends. We'll take your message to Earth. Let us see what we can do. As they walked back to their ship, Amy grabbed Jake's arm. What are you thinking? Earth's fleet is tiny compared to the Korthak Empire. We have maybe 50 ships total. Jake looked back at the settlement one more time. Children were still playing in the gardens, not understanding that their world was about to end. Maybe we have more than people think, he said quietly. Their ship lifted off as the sun set over Sanctuary Prime. Below them, the Zalani continued, their impossible task of trying to save what they could from a world that had taken centuries to build. Above them, the Korthak fleet waited with the patience of predators. But something else was about to happen. Something the galaxy had never seen before. Jake's message was already racing through hyperspace toward Earth, carrying with it a simple request that would change everything. Help us. The elevator descended deeper than most people knew was possible. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the numbers on the display go down past levels that did not officially exist. Basement 1, Basement 2, all the way down to sublevel 7. The doors opened, with a soft hiss. The corridor beyond looked like something from a science fiction movie. Blue lights ran along the walls and the air hummed with the sound of powerful computers. Guards in black uniforms nodded as she passed. They wore no name tags and carried weapons that looked nothing like standard military equipment. Kate had been running Earth's Deep Space Defense Initiative for 10 years. She was 52 years old with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. Most people thought she managed a small group of scientists who studied alien technology. They had no idea what she really did. The main briefing room was already full when she arrived. Dr. Ben Parker stood at the front, pointing at a large screen that showed the Sanctuary Prime system. Ben was younger than Kate, maybe 40, with the kind of mind that could solve problems other people could not even understand. Show me what we have, Kate said as she took her seat. Ben pressed a button, and the screen changed. Now it showed Jake Morrison's recorded message. Kate listened to every word. Watched the footage of the Zelani settlement, saw the fear in Elder Vexhi's eyes. When it finished, the room was quiet. How long until the Korthak attack? Asked General Carl Hayes from across the table. He was in charge of Earth's ground forces, though most people thought he just managed military bases. 60 hours, Ben replied. Maybe less. The Korthak like to attack early to show they mean business. Kate stood and walked to the screen. What do we know about their fleet? Standard Korthak destroyer group, said Commander Lisa Grant. She was Kate's best ship captain, even though officially she was just a test pilot. 47 ships total, heavy weapons, strong shields, more than enough to wipe out a peaceful colony. And the galactic response? Kate asked, though she already knew the answer. Nothing, Ben said. The Galactic Council met for 3 hours and decided it was not worth the risk. The Andromedan Federation sent a message saying they were sorry but could not help. Everyone else is pretending it is not happening. Kate was not surprised. For 50 years, ever since first contact, Earth had watched the galaxy carefully. They had learned that most species talked about peace and justice, but when it came time to act, they always found excuses. That was why Earth had built what they had built. Gentlemen, ladies, Kate said, it's time to show them what we've been working on. She pressed her hand to a scanner on the wall. The room's lights dimmed and new screens came down from the ceiling. What they showed made even these experienced officers catch their breath. The first image was of a ship in Earth's orbital shipyard. But this was no ordinary ship. It was massive, bigger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its hull was black and smooth, with lines that suggested both power and grace. The Titan-class battleship, Kate said. We have 32 of them now. How did we keep them secret? Asked Colonel Sam Roberts. He ran Earth's Marines, the ones who did not officially exist. Easy, Ben answered. We built them inside hollowed-out asteroids. As far as anyone knows, we're just mining for rare metals. The shipyards look like processing stations from the outside. Kate pressed another button. The screen showed smaller ships, sleek and fast. Nova Strike fighters, faster than anything in the known galaxy. We have over 1,000 of them. What about crews? General Hayes asked. You can't hide that many people. We don't hide them, Kate said with a small smile. They're all listed as researchers, engineers, test pilots. Everyone who works for the initiative signed agreements to never talk about their real jobs. Even their families think they work on peaceful projects. Dr. Parker stepped forward. But our real advantage is not the ships. It's this. The screen changed to show something that looked like a web of energy connecting all the human vessels. The Quantum Disruption Network. We've been studying alien technology for 50 years, learning how every species builds their weapons and shields. And, Kate prompted, we can turn them off, Ben said simply. All of them, at the same time. The room was silent as everyone understood what that meant. The Korthak have never fought an enemy who could disable their entire fleet in seconds, Kate continued. They've won every battle by having better weapons and more ships. But what happens when their weapons don't work? Commander Grant leaned forward. We've tested this? On volunteer ships from friendly species, Ben nodded. With their permission, of course, the system works perfectly. We can shut down weapons, shields, engines, even life support if we need to. And we can do it from anywhere in the system. Kate looked around the room at faces she had worked with for years. These people had helped her build Earth's secret defense, in complete silence. They had watched the galaxy ignore threats and make excuses while Earth prepared for the day when someone would need real help. The question is, Kate said, do we use it? What do you mean? Asked Colonel Roberts. I mean, once we reveal what we have, the galaxy will never see Earth the same way again. Right now, they think we're a small, peaceful species with a few exploration ships. If we show them our real fleet, everything changes. General Hayes crossed his arms. Maybe it's time for things to change. I'm tired of watching bullies take whatever they want while everyone else looks the other way. The Zelani never hurt anyone, said Commander Grant quietly. They spent 300 years helping other species grow food and live better lives. Now they're going to die because no one wants to fight for them. Kate nodded. She had read the reports about the Zelani. They were everything the galaxy claimed to value: peaceful, helpful, generous. But when they needed help, everyone turned away. "Dr. Parker," Kate said, "how fast can we get the first Armada to Sanctuary Prime?" 18 hours, Ben replied immediately. "The ships are already fueled and ready. We've been preparing for something like this for 10 years. Kate closed her eyes and thought about Earth's history. Humans had always been fighters, but they fought for reasons that mattered. They fought for freedom, for justice, for people who could not fight for themselves. Maybe it was time the galaxy learned what that meant. "Send the order," she said. "Prepare the first Armada for immediate departure." The room exploded into activity. People pulled out communication devices and began sending coded messages. On the screens, the orbital shipyards around Earth began to move. Asteroid mining stations opened up to reveal the massive ships hidden inside. Meanwhile, thousands of light-years away, the Korthak fleet moved closer to Sanctuary Prime. Commander Zekathul stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the peaceful planet turn slowly below them. "Any response from the colony?" he asked his communications officer. "They're still trying to evacuate, sir. Some kind of message about asking for help from other species." Zekathul laughed. It was a cold sound. "Let them ask. No one will come. No one ever comes. The galaxy has learned that it's easier to look away than to fight." He was wrong. In deep space, far from any inhabited system, 32 massive ships dropped out of hyperspace. They moved in perfect formation, their hulls dark against the stars. No one had ever seen ships like these before. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Defiance. Around her, her crew prepared for what might be the most important battle in human history. "All ships report ready, Commander," Grant announced from the tactical station. "Time to Sanctuary Prime?" Kate asked. 16 hours, 37 minutes, came the reply. Kate looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, a peaceful people waited to die while the galaxy's great powers found excuses to do nothing. But Earth was different. Earth remembered what it meant to stand up for others. "Take us to hyperspace," she ordered. "Let's show them what happens when you threaten our friends." The human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, racing toward a battle that would change the galaxy forever. Behind them, Earth continued its normal routine. Most people had no idea that their planet's greatest military force was about to reveal itself to the universe. In 18 hours, the galaxy would learn that Earth had been keeping secrets, big secrets. Commander Zekathul stood on the bridge of his destroyer, watching Sanctuary Prime turn slowly below. The planet looked so peaceful from space. Green fields and blue oceans, just like in the reports. Soon it would belong to the Korthak Empire. "Status. Report," he ordered his weapons officer. "All systems ready, Commander. 47 ships in attack formation. The orbital bombardment can begin on your command." Zekathul smiled. He had conquered 12 worlds for the Empire. This would be number 13. The Zalani had no weapons, no defense fleet. It would be over in minutes. "Sir," called his communications officer, "we're receiving another message from the colony." "Put it through," Zekathul said. He enjoyed listening to the fear in his enemies' voices. Elder Vexhai's face appeared on the screen. The old Zalani looked tired and sad. "Commander Zekathul, I am Elder Vexhai of the Zalani people. We are a peaceful species. We have done nothing to harm the Korthak Empire. Please let us leave in peace." Zekathul laughed. "You have something we want, old one. This planet has rich soil and good water. The Empire needs it. You have 30 minutes to finish your evacuation. Then we begin the final bombardment." The transmission ended. Zekathul turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare the planet crackers. When the time comes, I want to see those pretty green fields burn." Down on Sanctuary Prime, the Zalani hurried through their final preparations. Ships too small for their population carried away children and elders. Most of the adults would stay behind. Someone had to tend the gardens until the very end. Jake Morrison and Amy Carter had returned to help with the evacuation. They carried Zalani children to the transport ships, their hearts breaking with each frightened face. "Any word from Earth?" Amy asked as they loaded another group of refugees. Jake shook his head. The message got through, but it takes time. Even if they send help, it might not get here in time. Elder Vexhai approached them, carrying a small plant in his hands. Captain Morrison, I want you to have this. It is a seed from our mother tree. Perhaps somewhere our species will grow again. Jake took the plant carefully. It felt warm in his hands, like it was alive in a way he could not understand. Elder, we're not giving up. Earth will respond. I know you believe that, the elder replied. But even if they do, what can they do? The galaxy's greatest powers have already said no. Your Earth is kind, but it is small. Above them, the Korthak ships moved into final attack positions. Zekthul watched the countdown on his screen. 5 minutes until the bombardment began. Sir, his sensor officer called out suddenly. I'm detecting energy signatures approaching from hyperspace. How many ships? Zekthul asked without concern. Probably some merchant vessel that had wandered into the system by mistake. I'm not sure, sir. The readings are unusual. Zekthul frowned and walked over to the sensor station. The readings made no sense. Whatever was coming was big. Much bigger than any ship in the galactic databases. Sound general alert, he ordered. All ships to battle stations. The first ship dropped out of hyperspace like a falling star. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of Zekthul's flagship. Its hull was black and smooth, with lines that seemed to flow like water. He had never seen anything like it. Then the second ship appeared, and the third. Soon, the space around Sanctuary, Prime filled with vessels that dwarfed the Korthak fleet. They moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls reflecting the light of the system's star. Sir, the communications officer's voice was shaking. We're being hailed. Put it through, Zekthul ordered, though his voice was no longer as confident as before. The face that appeared on the screen was human. A woman with gray hair and stern eyes. She wore a uniform that looked military but was unlike anything in the galactic databases. This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the United Earth Armada, she said, her voice calm but carrying absolute authority. To all Korthak vessels in this system, you are hereby ordered to cease all hostile actions and withdraw from Zilani space immediately. Zekthul stared at the screen. Earth Armada? The humans barely had a dozen ships in their entire fleet. Everyone knew that. Human, he said, trying to sound brave. You make a mistake. We are the Korthak Empire. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Your pathetic species has no power here. Admiral Sullivan's expression did not change. You have 10 seconds to begin your withdrawal. This is your only warning. Zekthul looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at the screens showing the human ships. The massive vessels had spread out around the system, surrounding the Korthak fleet completely. Fire on the lead human ship, he ordered. Show them what happens when someone challenges the Empire. His weapons officer pressed the firing button. Nothing happened. Sir, weapons are not responding. What do you mean not responding? All weapon systems are offline. I'm showing complete power failure across all offensive systems. Zekthul ran to the engineering station. The displays showed impossible readings. Every weapon on every Korthak ship in the system had simultaneously failed. This is impossible, he whispered. On the UES Defiance, Dr. Ben Parker monitored the quantum disruption network from his station. All Korthak weapons disabled, Admiral. Their shields are down and their engines are operating at minimal power. Admiral Sullivan nodded. Launch fighters. I want those ships to understand they are completely helpless. The human carriers opened their bays and released clouds of small, fast ships. The Nova Strike fighters moved like silver lightning, dancing around the disabled Korthak vessels. They were faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. Captain Troy Adams led the fighter wing. His voice came through the communication system. Admiral, we have target locks on all enemy vessels. Their weapon systems are completely dead. They're sitting ducks. Down on Sanctuary Prime, the Zilani had stopped their evacuation to watch the sky. The human ships were clearly visible as bright points of light surrounding the darker Korthak Vessels, I don't understand, Elder Vexhai said to Jake. Where did these ships come from? Your species told us you had only exploration vessels. Jake was just as amazed as the Elder. I honestly don't know, but I've never been happier to be wrong about something. Amy pointed at her scanner. Look at this. The human ships are not just bigger than anything in the databases. They're using technology that's completely unknown. How did Earth develop this without anyone knowing? In space, Commander Zekthul was learning the answer to that question. Admiral Sullivan had opened a channel to all Korthak ships. Commander Zekthul, she said, for 50 years humanity has watched the galaxy. We've seen how the great powers make speeches about peace and justice, then look away when someone needs help. We decided to prepare for the day when we would not look away. This is impossible, Zekthul protested. No one species can build a fleet like this in secret. You're wrong, Admiral Sullivan replied. Earth has been building this fleet for decades. We've studied every technology, learned from every species we've met. We've prepared for this moment. Captain Lisa Grant, commanding the battleship UES Thunder, moved her massive ship directly in front of Zekthul's flagship. The Korthak destroyer looked like a toy next to the human vessel. The difference between Earth and the other powers, Admiral Sullivan continued, is that we actually mean what we say about protecting the innocent. Commander Zekthul, you have 1 minute to order your fleet to withdraw from this system. If you refuse, we will disable your ships permanently and tow them to the nearest Galactic Council station. Zekthul looked around his bridge. His weapons were dead. His shields were down. The human fighters circled his fleet like predators playing with their prey. In all his years of conquest, he had never been so completely outmatched. You cannot do this, he said weakly. The Empire will send more ships. Then we will be waiting for them, Admiral Sullivan replied. Earth does not abandon its friends, ever. The Korthak commander realized he had no choice. His fleet was helpless. The humans could destroy them all or let them go. He had to hope they were as merciful as they claimed to be. All ships, he broadcast to his fleet, withdraw from the system. Maximum speed. The Korthak vessels began to move away from Sanctuary Prime, their engines struggling to function with the human disruption field still affecting their systems. They looked like beaten animals slinking away from a fight they could not win. As the last Korthak ship disappeared into hyperspace, the human fleet took up protective positions around Sanctuary Prime. On the planet's surface, the Zilani stood in their gardens and looked up at the stars, hardly believing what they had just witnessed. Elder Vexhai placed his hand on Jake's shoulder. Captain Morrison, it seems your people have been keeping secrets. Jake looked up at the massive human ships orbiting their world. Good secrets, he said quietly. The best kind of secrets. In the depths of space, Admiral Sullivan watched the Korthak fleet retreat. This was just the beginning. Word of what happened here would spread across the galaxy. Everyone would know that Earth had revealed its true strength, and they would know that humanity meant what it said about protecting those who could not protect themselves. The news spread across the galaxy faster than hyperspace travel. On every world and every space station, beings watched the recordings with disbelief. The mighty Korthak Empire, defeated without firing a single shot, and by humans of all species. On the capital world of the Galactic Council, emergency sessions ran day and night. Council Premier Zarthus of the Andromedans paced back and forth in the great chamber. His blue skin had turned pale with shock. How is this possible? He demanded of his military advisors. Our intelligence report said Earth had maybe 50 ships total. Exploration vessels, research ships, nothing more. General Kevron studied the tactical displays. The recordings show at least 30 massive battleships, sir, each one larger than our heaviest dreadnought, plus over 1,000 fighters moving, faster than our best interceptors. And this quantum disruption network they used? Unknown technology, sir. Our scientists are studying the data, but they say it would take decades to develop something like that, maybe centuries. Zarthus stopped pacing and stared at the main screen. It showed the human fleet in perfect formation around Sanctuary Prime. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we want to talk. Meanwhile, on Earth, the reaction was just as intense. Most humans had no idea their planet even had a real military. They watched the news broadcasts with the same amazement as everyone else in the galaxy. In his office in Geneva, Secretary General Carlos Mendez fielded calls from every major world leader. The Chinese premier wanted to know why she had not been told about the fleet. The American president demanded to know how much it had cost. The European Union Council wanted detailed reports on everything. "Sir," his aide said, bringing him another stack of messages. "We have formal requests for meetings from 47 different alien governments. They all want to know the same thing, which is, what else is Earth hiding?" Deep beneath the Pentagon, Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the galactic response with quiet satisfaction. Her communication screen showed incoming calls from species that had ignored Earth for decades. Now everyone wanted to talk. "Admiral," said Dr. Ben Parker, "the Galactic Council is requesting a formal meeting. They want to send a delegation to Earth." "Let them come," Kate replied. "It's time they learned who we really are." The delegation arrived 3 days later. Ambassador Nick Foster met them at the orbital station above Earth. Nick was a career diplomat, but he had been briefed on everything. He knew exactly what Earth wanted the galaxy to understand. With him was Commander Jill Morrison, Jake's older sister. She had spent 15 years commanding ships in the Outer Rim, fighting pirates and protecting trade routes. Most people thought she was just a patrol captain. In reality, she was one of Earth's most experienced combat commanders. The Galactic Council chamber was packed. Representatives from dozens of species had come to hear what Earth had to say. Council Premier Zarthus called the session to order. "Ambassador Foster," he began, "the Galactic Council demands an explanation. Your species has hidden military capabilities from the galactic community. This violates several treaties regarding military transparency." Nick stood calmly. He was a tall man with kind eyes, but there was steel in his voice when he spoke. "Council Premier, Earth has violated no treaties. We signed agreements regarding the ships we officially registered with galactic authorities. We never signed anything requiring us to report our defensive capabilities." "Defensive?" sputtered the representative from the Rigel Consortium. "Those were the largest warships ever seen in this galaxy, built to defend peaceful species like the Zalani," Commander Jill replied. "Species that the great powers of this council abandoned when they needed help." Murmurs filled the chamber. The Centauri representative stood up. "Your species declared only research and exploration vessels. You said you were scientists and explorers." Nick smiled. "We never lied. We are explorers and researchers. We simply did not mention that we were exploring ways to protect our friends and researching the best methods to build ships that could do it." Council Premier Zarthus leaned forward. "How long has Earth been building this fleet?" 50 years, Nick answered honestly. "Ever since first contact. We watched the galaxy carefully. We saw how the great powers talked about peace and justice, but always found excuses when it came time to act." "You had no right to judge us," said the Andromedan military advisor. "Commander." Jill stepped forward. Her uniform was simple, but the medals on her chest told a story of years in dangerous space. "We did not judge you. We simply prepared for the day when someone would need real help, not just pretty speeches." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives shouted about treaties and protocols. But Nick raised his hand for silence. "The Zalani sent distress calls to every major power in this chamber," he said quietly. "Every single one of you said no. You were all too afraid of the Korthak Empire to help a peaceful species that had never hurt anyone. The Korthak Empire is powerful," protested the Rigel representative. "Starting a war with them would cost millions of lives." "Would it?" Nick asked. "Because Earth just defeated their entire battle fleet without killing a single enemy soldier. Maybe the problem is not that the Korthak are too strong. Maybe the problem is that the rest of you never really tried to stop them." The chamber fell, silent. On the screens around the room, recordings played of the battle at Sanctuary Prime. The Korthak fleet rendered helpless in seconds. The human ships, moving with precision and power that no one had imagined possible, "What do you want from us?" Council Premier Zarthus asked finally. "Nothing," Nick replied. "Earth does not need anything from this council. We wanted you to understand that the galaxy has changed. There is now a species that will act when others will not." "This changes everything," whispered the representative from the Tau Ceti colonies. "Yes, it does," Commander Jill agreed. "The age of making excuses while bullies take whatever they want is over." But even as the council debated, new reports were coming in from across the galaxy. The Korthak Empire was not finished. Admiral Zekmor, Supreme Commander of their military, had seen the recordings from Sanctuary Prime. He was gathering the largest fleet in Korthak history. On Sanctuary Prime itself, the rebuilding had begun. Human engineering teams worked alongside the Zilani to repair the damage from the evacuation. Colonel Sam Roberts supervised the construction of new defensive systems, while Dr. Rachel Green helped the Zilani improve their agricultural techniques. Elder Vexhai walked through the gardens with Jake Morrison. The plants were growing again, stronger than before. "Captain, your people have given us more than our lives back. You have given us hope." "The galaxy needed to remember what it means to stand up for others," Jake replied. "Maybe now things will be different." But their conversation was interrupted by urgent signals from Earth. Amy Carter ran toward them, her face pale with worry. "Jake, we're receiving transmissions from the Outer Rim. Long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements." "The Korthak?" "Not just them. Admiral Zekmor is calling in fleets from across the Empire. But that's not the worst part." Jake felt his stomach drop. "What's the worst part? He's not just coming for Sanctuary Prime. He's declared war on Earth itself." The message was broadcast on all frequencies across the galaxy. They ran to the communication center, where Elder Vexhai was already listening to the transmission. Admiral Zekmor's voice filled the room, cold and full of rage. "People of the galaxy, the Korthak Empire has been humiliated by an unknown species. This will not stand. We call upon our ancient rights of conquest. The human homeworld will burn. The Zilani colony will be destroyed. Let this be a lesson to any who dare interfere with the Empire's expansion." The transmission ended, leaving them in terrible silence. "How many ships?" Jake asked quietly. Amy checked her readings. "Over 200 vessels. Dreadnoughts, destroyers, fighter carriers. It's the largest Korthak fleet ever assembled." Elder Vexhai looked stricken. "This is our fault. If we had just accepted our fate, none of this would have happened." Jake put his hand on the elder's shoulder. "No. This was always going to happen. The Korthak would have kept taking worlds until someone finally said no. At least now the galaxy knows there's someone willing to fight." Above them, Admiral Sullivan received the same reports aboard the UES Defiance. The Korthak Empire was coming with everything they had. It would be the largest space battle in galactic history. But Earth was ready. And this time, they would not be fighting alone. Across the galaxy, something unexpected was happening. Species that had been afraid to act were finding their courage. The Andromedan Federation was mobilizing their battle fleets. The Centauri Alliance was preparing for war. Even smaller species were offering what ships they could. The humans had shown them something they had forgotten. Sometimes you have to fight for what is right, even when the odds seem impossible. The final battle was coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. The largest fleet in galactic history dropped out of hyperspace like an angry storm. Admiral Zekmor stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, watching 200 Korthak warships take position around Sanctuary Prime. Dreadnoughts, destroyers, and fighter carriers spread across space in perfect attack formation. "Today we restore the honor of the Empire," he announced to his fleet. "The humans will learn what happens when someone challenges Korthak power." But as his ships moved into position, Zekmor noticed something that made him pause. The human fleet was not hiding behind the planet or running away. Instead, Admiral Sullivan had positioned her ships in open space, directly between the Korthak Armada and Sanctuary Prime. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the humans have only 40 ships. We outnumber them 5-1. "And yet they stand and fight," Zekmor muttered. He had conquered many worlds, but he had never seen such confidence from an outnumbered enemy. On the bridge of the UES Defiance, Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the Korthak fleet spread out before them. Her ships were badly outnumbered, but she was not worried. Earth had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. All ships report ready, Commander Lisa Grant announced from her position at Tactical. Dr. Parker, status on the quantum disruption. Network? Online and ready, Admiral, but sir, there are too many ships. The network can handle maybe half their fleet at once. Kate nodded. She had expected this. Then we'll have to be creative. Captain Adams, are your fighters ready? Troy Adams's voice came through the communications system from his Nova Strike fighter. All squadrons ready, Admiral. We're faster than anything they have. Good. Captain Grant, prepare the Thunder for close combat. We're going to show them what Titan-class battleships can really do. Admiral Zekmore opened communications to the human fleet. His face appeared on screens throughout the system. Admiral Sullivan, you have brought 39 ships against 200. Surrender now, and we will allow your species to live as subjects of the Empire. Kate's response became famous across the galaxy. Admiral Zekmore, we came here to protect our friends. We're staying here to protect our principles. If you want a war, you'll get one. But it won't be the war you expect. The battle began with the Korthak fleet opening fire with everything they had. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles streaked across space toward the human ships. But the Titan-class battleships were ready. Their shields absorbed the attacks while their own weapons returned fire with precision strikes. Activate the quantum disruption network, Kate ordered. Target their lead ships. Instantly, the front third of the Korthak fleet went dark. Weapons failed. Shields collapsed, engines stuttered to a stop. But there were still over 100 enemy ships left and they kept attacking. Launch all fighters, Kate commanded. The human carriers opened their bays and released clouds of Nova Strike fighters. Captain Adams led them in a dance of death around the larger Korthak ships. The alien vessels had never seen anything move so fast. Human pilots weaved between enemy fire like they were playing a game. Thunder, move in close, Kate ordered. Show them what we can do. Captain Grant's massive battleship charged straight into the enemy formation. The UES Thunder was 3 times larger than the biggest Korthak ship, and it used that size like a weapon. Smaller enemy vessels bounced off its armored hull, while its guns tore through their defenses. But Admiral Zekmore was not finished. All ships concentrate fire on the human flagship. Bring down their command ship and the battle is over. A dozen Korthak dreadnoughts turned their weapons on the UES Defiance. Kate felt her ship shake under the massive attack. Warning lights flashed across her bridge. Shields down to 60%, reported her engineering officer. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7, called out another voice. Kate was about to give new orders when something impossible happened. New ships began dropping out of hyperspace around the battle. But these were not Korthak reinforcements. Cedar, first to arrive, was an Andromedan battle group, led by Admiral Zendai. His ships immediately opened fire on the Korthak fleet. Admiral Sullivan, his voice came through the communications. The Andromedan Federation stands with Earth. More ships appeared. Centauri Alliance cruisers, Rigel Consortium destroyers, even small vessels from species that had never fought a major battle before. They all had the same message. They were here to help. Elder Vex High watched the battle from Sanctuary Prime's surface. Jake Morrison stood beside him, amazed by what he was seeing. I don't understand, the Elder said. Why are they coming now? They all said no before. Because Earth showed them something they had forgotten, Jake replied. Sometimes, you have to fight for what's right even when it's dangerous. In space, the tide of battle was turning. The combined fleet now outnumbered the Korthak forces, and Admiral Zekmore was learning what human tactics really meant. Earth's ships did not fight to conquer territory. They fought to protect others. Captain Roy Mitchell, commanding the UES Victory, coordinated with Andromedan ships to rescue damaged vessels from both sides. Lieutenant Sarah Lewis led her fighter squadron in precision strikes that disabled enemy weapons without destroying the ships completely. Sir, Zekmore's tactical officer reported. We're losing ships faster than we can replace them. The humans are not trying to destroy us. They're trying to capture us. Admiral Zekmore realized the truth. The humans could have destroyed his fleet completely, but they were holding back. They were trying to end the war, not just win the battle, but Zekmore was not ready to surrender. In rage and desperation, he activated his ship's most terrible weapon, a planet-killer missile aimed directly at Sanctuary Prime. "If I cannot have victory," he broadcast, "then no one will survive this day." The missile launched toward the planet where millions of Zilani lived. It moved too fast for normal weapons to stop. In seconds, it would destroy everything on Sanctuary Prime. But Earth had one more surprise. Every human ship in the battle turned toward the planet at the same moment. Instead of firing weapons, they projected energy beams that combined into a massive shield around Sanctuary Prime. The planet-killer missile struck the shield and exploded harmlessly in space. Admiral Zekmore stared in disbelief. "Impossible. No fleet sacrifices tactical advantage to protect others." Admiral Sullivan's voice filled his bridge. "That's where you're wrong, Admiral. That's exactly what humans do." The sight of the entire human fleet working together to save the planet broke something in the Korthak commander. He had spent his life believing that power meant taking what you wanted. But the humans had power and used it to protect others. "All Korthak ships," he broadcast to his fleet, "cease fire. We surrender." The battle was over. The Korthak Empire, the greatest military power in the galaxy, had been defeated not by superior numbers or better weapons, but by species willing to work together for something bigger than themselves. 6 months later, Jake Morrison stood in the rebuilt gardens of Sanctuary Prime. The Zilani had not just replanted their crops. They had created something new, with plants from Earth growing alongside their own crystal fruits. "The galaxy is different now," Elder Vexhai said as they walked among the flowers. "The Galactic Council has been reformed. The Korthak Empire agrees to peace treaties. Species that were enemies are learning to work together. And it all started because you sent a message asking for help," Jake replied. Elder Vexhai smiled. "No, Captain. It started because one species answered." Above them, ships from dozens of worlds patrolled the space around Sanctuary Prime. The new Galactic Defense Alliance protected peaceful species across the galaxy. And at its heart was Earth, the species that had remembered what it meant to stand up for others. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched from the bridge of the UES Defiance as her ships worked alongside former enemies to keep the peace. The galaxy had learned that Earth's greatest weapon was not their technology. It was their refusal to abandon those who needed help. In the distance, stars shone on worlds where children grew up without fear of conquest. The age of bullies taking what they wanted was over. The galaxy had found its protectors at last, and they came from a small blue planet called Earth, where people believed that doing the right thing mattered more than doing the easy thing.